Welcome to another episode of Medicine Mondays. I'm yours truly, Dr. Barry Pierre, favorite board certified internist, host of Medicine Mondays, Power for Better Health series, as well as our other YouTube channel, Dr. Pierre's Health Checks. You are in for another treat. Again, I probably say this every single week, but we have an esteemed guest who is not only a colleague, but almost like a family friend, especially here within the Lunch and Learn community, Dr. Sylvia Bollie, who is not only a board certified obesity medicine specialist, she's a CEO, health and what, like just an amazing person. And this is going to be not her first or second, but actually her fourth time here, really embracing the Lunch and Learn community, educating us, getting us together. I'm excited. Again, we probably do more talking kind of off camera than we do on camera. It's just like, again, I love everything about her. And just to see the kind of growth of where she's at now, like I can't wait till she's on the podcast and especially this series the next time, right? Just amazing things for us to come. Again, Dr. Sylvia Bollie, thank you again, right? Again, I say this every time, but thank you again for really just blessing our community and just let's getting us together, right? Because the pandemic is here. It ain't going nowhere, unfortunately, anytime soon. So please get us together. Like, how are we going to get us straight today?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Barry, for having me. It is an honor and always a blessing to be in your space. And we've been together for years, right? And doing this since you said I was on episode 98.
Episode 98.
Was my first one.
Yeah. So that's for January 2019, y'all. So just give y'all some content, everybody.
Wow. And I just admire your consistency and your dedication and how you keep going. And so when you talk about like, how am I going to get y'all together? Like, that's what we have to create in our wellness, right? That's what we have to create on our weight loss journey, on our health journey. We have to create that consistency, that commitment to excellence, and really embracing yourself and who you are. And so I love seeing you exemplify that in this space, in that community. And that's what I hope to bring to y'all, tips that you can use to be able to really stop trying to do it like everybody else does it. Stop trying to follow this diet, that diet, bouncing around, walking around in fear, walking around in frustration, but really, really understanding the science of you and loving you in the process.
I love it. Dr. Bowley, if in case this is someone's first time kind of hopping on, they haven't listened to your other amazing episodes. Like, who is Dr. Sylvia Bollie? Just so again, obviously, we'll make sure her description and everything. But like, I want to make sure you hear from her mouth, right? Because again, I probably gush over all of my guests, but like she is definitely one of my favorite guests, and really just people, right? Not even just just people in general. And I've talked about this before. I do a lot of shadow following for a lot of people, and I'm just always in the background because I like seeing people win and do amazing things, and this person kind of exemplifies it all. Like, who's Dr. Sylvia Bollie for the Lunch and Learn community who may not know about you yet?
Absolutely. So I'm Dr. Sylvia Bollie. I'm a dual board certified. Let me start with stats and creds, right?
Yeah,
so I'm a dual board certified internal medicine and obesity medicine physician. I like to say I'm a body fat expert. I'm also a certified group fitness instructor. I'm a best-selling author of Embrace You. And more important, I'm a human being. I have gone on my own weight journey myself. I lost 60 pounds, not once, but twice, and kept it off for the last 7 years. And basically that experience taught me that everything we learned about med school, in med school, we learned about weight and obesity was wrong. And I needed to change that, unlearn all of that, and learn to love myself and create a personalized program. And so that once I got that down, I said, bet, I'm about to teach this to everybody else, because we need to stop the games, stop the gimmicks, stop obsessing over the scale, and truly helping you to figure out what's your wellness-based strategy that's going to not help you lose weight today, but also develop a lifetime of wellness at your happy, healthy weight. And so that's me, and that's what I do.
What I love, and we've definitely talked about this before, is this aspect of not only having to learn new, but having to unlearn a lot of things, right? So, someone might listen to what you just said and said like, wow, she was able to lose 60 pounds, not once, but twice, right? And like, they're probably racking the brain, like, I'm trying to figure out how to lose this next 10. right? Like, so it's one of those things where when we see, I always talk about it, when we see someone do something, then it doesn't seem impossible anymore, right? So going through your journey, right? Like, what are some of like the biggest things that you've known that, especially when I've talked about it before, and especially in medical school, our nutrition curriculum was like a 2-weeker, right? Like that was it. Like we got 2 weeks of nutrition, and then they kind of kept it moving. What were some of the biggest things you knew you had to not only learn, but definitely unlearn in this process of kind of getting to where you're at today?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is calories in, calories out, right? When we talk about nutrition, like that's how we were taught, oh, weight loss is simple. It's just calories in versus calories out. How many times have we heard that, where we taught that? And that reduces it all down to, okay, diet, exercise, what goes on your plate. But what we now know, there's over 100 triggers for weight gain and body fat storage outside of just what you eat and how much you exercise. And so if you don't pay attention to those other things, it can end up being a very frustrating, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm following the diet, I'm exercising, but I'm not losing the weight, or I lose it and it plateaus, or it just comes right back. And all of that can be frustrating. So the first thing, I had to broaden the definition that it's energy in versus energy out. And energy is so much bigger than what's on your plate or how much you exercise, right? Stress can impact your energy. Your job can impact your energy. Living through a global pandemic can affect your energy balance, right? The people around you, those toxic people around you, watching too much TV. I mean, there's just so many things. So once you broaden that definition, then you can find those like little secret hidden places, those root causes that may be beyond just trying to stick to a diet. And then may even tell you why you can't stick to the diet. So that is really what, for me, I had to learn. That was one of the biggest game changers, is unlearning that calories in versus calories out. And then the other thing, because I'm touchy-feely now, Dr. Perry. Yeah. So like the softer side of it is really getting rid of the blame and the shame, because a lot of what we learn, because what comes with the calories in, calories out is like, it's your fault. If you're not losing weight, it's your fault because you didn't reduce your calories enough. You didn't exercise enough. It doesn't. But when we recognize that there's so many things outside of a person's control, it doesn't help to blame or to shame. And more especially, you have to love yourself in the process, not carry on that blame and that shame, like, oh, I never do this right, I didn't do that right. So it was just so key. Those were the game changers for me: self-love, and then actually personalizing the science, broadening that definition, moving past calories in and calories out to energy in versus energy out.
Again, I told you Dr. Sylvia was going to bring it, because again, it's one of those very uplifting and energizing, factors to understand that it's not necessarily your fault, right? That you're not getting the results that you're getting, despite, what you see on TV, what you hear, what the scale reads, right? Like a lot of times there's so many different, again, the pandemic in and of itself, right? We've gotten to a point where we're going on 1.5 years, right? In this like pandemic status. About 1.5 years. Wow, that's crazy. Just saying that loud sounds crazy. But it's not surprising, right? When we're seeing the amount of changes that had to occur, right? We've had to endure closing downs of gyms, closing down of shops. We've had to do, food shortages. We've had to do with kind of food, even restrictions, right? Constrictions, like all of these things that have kind of played a factor, right? Like as we've kind of moved along, this pandemic of sorts. So I think it's very telling, right? That you're able to really say like, hey guys, like stop like focusing on really those two things, right? And I know we've talked about the B.M.I aspect a lot, right? Stop focusing on kind of these hard matters that really aren't telling the full story, which is why I love what you bring to the table, is that you force us to have to I'm not gonna only look at the scale, look at this or what you eat. Like I need to know everything going on around you, right? Because that's the story I need to know. Because if we're gonna get you to that goal, whatever that goal is, lose 10 pounds, gain 10 pounds, gain muscle, whatever that goal is. If I'm going to get you to that goal, I need to know your full story to kind of get you there, which is, again, that's why I love, what you've been doing really over the past couple of years. Because like I said, it's just been an amazing journey to kind of watch.
Thank you, Dr. Bear. Another thing I wanted to bring up, because you've highlighted so many things happened during the pandemic, but indulge me if you will. You know, I'm a cool nerd. I got to bring some facts in. So let's talk about fat, right? Because body fat, see it here, that's a 5-pound fat model. Body fat is not all bad. The reason why fat continues to exist and the reason why we need it in our body, it doesn't just sit there. It has hormonal function, right? Especially for women, but even for men, it helps to regulate our hormones. It also has protective factors. It protects our vital organs, which is why it tends to want to come in the middle where we got a lot of precious organs there. It also gives us insulation and warmth and protection. But most importantly, body fat is there to store energy for times of possible threats to our survival. Now, let's think lunch and learn community. When was our survival possibly threatened recently? Like, was it when we had a global pandemic, when we didn't know what was going to happen the next day to the next? So would it be possible that maybe our bodies got the signal that, hey, there's a lot going on, there's a possibility of famine, that we might not survive, so maybe we need to store a little extra fat. Now combine that with just the biological, that's the hormonal, like biological signaling favoring fat storage, favoring weight gain, right? Then we've added to the stress, which also increases our cortisol, all those hormones. Then we added to the behaviors it promoted, hoarding all that shelf-ready food, that storage food, that high carb food, which then is going to favor insulin resistance, all of this. So it was the perfect storm for weight gain. I say all that to say, there's the quarantine 15, I hear about quarantine 19, like all of this stuff, but to me, it makes a lot of sense that this actually happened, because from a just evolutionary perspective, and yes, I'm a believer, but God can work through evolution. So through an evolutionary perspective, it makes sense for the body to favor fat storage during the pandemic. And so now it's like, okay, we recognize that we're beyond surviving. We want to still thrive. We have to give the body the right signals on how we're going to thrive now that this pandemic may be here for a while. We have to learn to live and adapt with this. So we can't keep eating all the Oreos, all the pasta, all the bread, all that shelf-ready stuff. So what are we going to do now and move forward?
What I think, and I like how you kind of put all that together, is that I think especially as time, right, as time has progressed with this pandemic, what I've seen, especially in the hospital setting, just kind of general community, is that people's stress level has definitely decreased, right? Like they're not as stressed, not as worried about kind of the pandemic in itself. Like, I don't want to say they're becoming acclimated to it, right? But a lot of people are just kind of like, all right, yes, I'm in a pandemic, I'm wearing my mask, hopefully. Like they're kind of doing that. And what you're saying is like, okay, if you're trying to turn that corner, like you can't still have that, cabinet full of snacks, right? You have to, like, again, if your stress level is going down, like things need to kind of change as way too, because again, your body is definitely very comfortable, right? Insulating and using the fat as it's supposed to use. And I think it's very telling, because again, we always hear about the boogeyman of body fat. And just being able to educate our community, say like, no, it is not all bad. It's doing, unfortunately, it's doing what it's supposed to do. Right, like fortunately it does it so effectively, right? Like I think that's really our biggest issue. It does it just an effective way of using body fat to the best of our ability, and as long as you keep giving the body and putting the body in the situation that it needs to be, with stress, with eating, right, with lack of sleep, and all of those things kind of combined, right, the body's going to do some amazing things. Unfortunately, holding on the fat is just one of them.
Yeah, there's a survival advantage to holding on to the fat. I like to tell my clients, who have the medical condition of obesity, I say, well, if we were in caveman times, you would be queen of the jungle and I would be Edith. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a reason. We know that people like to act like obesity wasn't around, but we know from if you look in prehistoric figures, there's the Venus statue, and she is a pleasantly plump woman right? That was revered. And so that tells us that it was around, and it was a thing of, it was a status symbol. It was there was a benefit to it. The problem is now we live in a time where you don't need all that excess fat, right? We can easily walk to the grocery store. We can go to our pantry. We can go there. So how are we going to now tell the body, like, thank you for helping me. I know you're not against me. You're trying to help me out, but what can I do? But I actually need to release some of this so that I don't get diabetes, so I don't get hypertension, so I don't have heart disease, because really it's beyond aesthetics. And in Embrace You, both the book and in the program, I talk about two things: the happy weight and the healthy weight. Like healthy weight, that's where we're getting into metabolic risk diseases and things like that. And that is a clinical thing where we should be able to help you figure out what is like your threshold body fat percentage and indirectly body weight that puts you at risk for metabolic disease, puts you at risk for diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, the top three biggest ones that are really impacting us, even kidney disease. So we need to be able to help you figure that out beyond just using the BMI tool. So I'm gonna pause that because that's my soapbox.
Yes, yes.
And then, so that's the fact part of it. So that's the healthy weight. The feeling part of it, which I think we've missed the mark on a lot as doctors, and let me just call a spade, we've missed the mark on, is we don't take into account what makes people feel good, right? Like, what is that weight that you feel most like yourself, that you feel comfortable, that you feel confident? For me, I'm gonna keep it real, it's the weight I can run without my butt hitting my back, like, because I'm a runner. So like when I get past my healthy weight, like my run, I feel myself kind of slowing down and everything's jiggling. It's just not comfortable. So, every woman, every man, every person has that happy weight where you feel most comfortable with, and you can really feel comfortable in your skin. So I combine them both in the book. And so to talk about, like, how do you figure out your healthy weight beyond the BMI, beyond just the scale? How do you figure out your happy weight, which is you? Like, and there's a lot of noise that makes it hard. And honestly, through the work I've done, both at, when I was practicing internal medicine, obesity medicine, and then through the intensive Embrace You program, what we have done in medicine by telling people, like, okay, this is the BMI chart. You're 63 inches. You should weigh 107 pounds. Like, that makes it hard for people to hear their own happy weight, to feel their own body and know where they feel comfortable with. And so there's some unlearning that has to come with that too.
So, and I definitely a great segue, right? As we move forward, right? As we move forward, especially kind of through this pandemic, right? What has been, some of the ways that you've been able to, again, coach, the people you work with to say, like, all right, let's try to start changing some of our mindset, because again, if we want to lose some weight, we're going to have to do some things. Like, what have been some of those kind of tactics that you've been able to kind of really employ with Embrace You, right? And then I think first we should probably let's just start saying, what is Embrace You, and then kind of incorporate, like, what has been some of those ways you've been able to incorporate some of your teachings in there.
Absolutely. So, Lord, so it's been almost a year, and it has been a journey. So like, I just feel so like emotional thinking about, because, actually, Dr. I've just now been able to tell my story. So I created Embrace You, or what would become Embrace You, while I was actually working on the COVID front line. So, January, my father passed away. February, I left primary care, the traditional sense that I was practicing. I started working in a subacute rehab facility in March. And I was like, oh, this, because I've always loved geriatrics. And then in April, COVID pandemic hit big time, and we had our first outbreak there. So what was going to be like a little transition period while I worked on birthing a obesity practice, or work on a weight loss practice, ended up being me thrown into the fire of the COVID front lines. And it was a life-changing experience, I can honestly say, in the sense that that population was so vulnerable, like people in the nursing home during the COVID pandemic. But even though they were so vulnerable and really I lost a lot of patients, they were so loving and they were so wonderful and they poured into me as well. And, but one of the things that I kept nagging me was like, man, these people are here with preventable disease, right? What we call preventable disease. They're here with obesity. They're here with complicated diabetes. They're here with complicated hypertension. Why are we not doing enough to prevent this before it comes? Why are we not telling people, helping people not individually get to what they need to succeed in their own wellness before they end up in a rehab facility, a nursing home, before they're hit with the complications of COVID. And so really that passion, like seeing that, I was like, I can't wait anymore. I can't be afraid of starting my own practice anymore. I can't do it. And when I do it, I'm really going to do the work to help unroot what is the why. What's your why? What is your why behind why you're not losing weight? And so Embrace You launched in August of last year. And what it is it's an intensive
during the pandemic.
Yeah, during the pandemic, we go. During the pandemic, while I'm working on the front lines, if I'm gonna keep it really 100, while I'm moving and remodeling my 102-year-old house with my 8-year-old and my 1.5-year-old. So all of this was going on at the same time. But praise God, he's good. Okay.
Yes,
so he helped me through it. He said, do it and I'll help you through it. And he did. And then I was in a coaching program at Bogo's Academy. So yeah, it was
shout out to Dr. Dre.
Shout out to Dr. Dre. Well, he'll birth those dreams. So that helped give me some of the support I needed though to do it. So yeah, so I launched Embrace You and it has evolved over time, but what it is an intensive 3-month program in which we are going to do a combination of individual coaching as well as group coaching and really get to figure out your why, figure out what is keeping you from being consistent on your weight loss journey, what give you clarity on what causes you to gain weight and what you need to do individually specific for you to create a lifestyle that you can stick to. And it's not about obsessing over the scale. It's about making peace with the scale and making peace with your body and really learning to love you in the process of developing this lifelong wellness strategy. And so it's wonderful. So we meet one-on-one about 8 times through the 3 months. And then we meet weekly and through this special curriculum that I created where you're really going to find out like all the stuff the weight loss industry doesn't want you to know, basically. Yes. I'm going to give it to you because I think knowledge is power, right? The more, when you actually know the rules of the game, then you know how to break them. You know how to play the game to win. So I'm gonna
I love that. I love it because it is almost a secret, right? Because again, like again, I'm an internist, right? Like why wouldn't they focus on, have a much more extensive discussion on nutrition during it almost makes no sense, right? For those who are typically, in charge of a patient's health, right? To usually be one of the least educated, right? In the sense of things on like just the nutrition. And you said it best, like it's nothing more disheartening, taking care of patients and that they're in there for something that if someone, right, just someone like Dr. Sylvia would have just saw them 5-10 years ago, they wouldn't be in front of me with a heart attack, right? They wouldn't be in front of me with me telling them they're about to go on dialysis, all right? They wouldn't be in front of me with me about to tell them like, yeah, you just had the stroke because your blood pressure was like I think that is what, is so, so bad for us, especially here in the hospital acute setting, right? When we see kind of the end stage effects of processes that could have been, stopped, right? Like, again, we don't say preventative diseases because we're like, oh, so like, no, like you literally would have avoided seeing me, right? If someone would have, like told you, like, stop eating salt, like, so, like, which is, again, it's more superficial than that, but like, that's really sometimes all it would have taken is just someone like would have said like, oh no, do this, or take this, or like, don't eat that. Like, and all of a sudden you would still have your legs, right? All this, like, and being hyperbole, right? But like all of a sudden, like, you know, I wouldn't be talking about amputations and things of that nature because, you know, you didn't get the help that you needed. So no, I love, one, I love that you were so charged that you weren't going to allow a pandemic. You weren't going to allow, you know, the transition of kind of moving from, you know, one practice to another, whilst kind of serving on the front lines, taking care of the sick of the sickest, to kind of stop you on your journey. Like I said, and it's so funny because we've talked about this before, kind of offline, like the goals and aspirations. I remember asking, like, oh, what do you eventually want to do? And you said, like, this is kind of what I want to do. So to be able to kind of see like that coming to fruition is such a, you know, such a, you know, a loving thing, especially from my end, right? And that's why I wish you all the success in the world, because like I know that, you know, you spoke this into existence, right? And sometimes, again, when we're in our journey, you know, we don't necessarily know how we're going to get to that end goal. We just know we want to get there, right? And then just kind of seeing you kind of like, again, chug along, and not allow kind of any obstacles in your way, you know, permanently stop you from getting there. Such a beautiful thing.
Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Berry. I receive it. That's a whole word. Thank you. And you said something else that I wanted to piggyback on. So you said, you know, and I love what you said, in the acute setting, realizing that, hey, if they had met someone like me that would have maybe helped them on their journey before, they wouldn't be losing their legs, they wouldn't be on dialysis. But I think it goes beyond what we were taught to do, which was to tell people, stop eating salt. Just eat less of this. And we have to go behind and dig deep and say, why are you eating salt? Why do you crave so much salt? Why do you crave so much salt? When do you crave the salt? And really figure out both what I talk about in Embrace You. In the program, especially, we do a whole course on cravings, right? And figuring out the root of cravings, because every craving has two sources in mind. Just for simplicity, that's the biological, which I call bio, and then there's the psychological, or emo, just to make it easy. So there's the biological part of it. So like with the salt craving, you know, are you, is it that you grew up eating a lot of salt, so your taste buds, your threshold for salt is higher? Or are you dehydrated? Are you not drinking enough water? Like that's like the physiological part of it that's behind it. Or is there some other underlying disease that might be causing you to crave salt? Then, and you know, there's lots of reasons for salt cravings. Then the emo part of it, okay, does this usually tend to happen around your period? If you're a woman, does it usually tend to happen when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're salty, you know, you want to reach for something salty to crave? So really figuring out those reasons why, and then backtracking and coming up with solutions and a strategy around it is what's so important.
You know, and unless you're like me, I don't know if you even realize, like just really the stark difference of kind of like, you know, how I kind of hypothesized and then how she did it, right? Like again, Dr. Sylvia, again, I don't brag just to brag. Like this is an amazing person, because it is, even as a physician, like I still have to like, all right, like I really need to even go back, even in my own personal practice, and focus on even more deeper levels, right? Because again, it is more superficial to say like, oh, just eat this, just take this medication, right? But if you don't ask the why, right? If you're not trying to get what the origin is, right? Again, if you're not trying to embrace you, right? Like again, you know, for the partner, like you're not going to get there, right? Like, so again, I can say all I want, I can give you any medication I want, but if I'm not trying to address the origin of what got you there, right? Like it's going to be a false sense of trying to security, at least on our end. And I think as a physician, that's the way we've been taught, is almost like a false sense of security. Like, oh, just give this medication, just tell them to eat this, eat more of this, eat less of that, and then they're okay, and not ask about any of the other reasons of why they've gotten there to the first place. So again, I just wanted you guys to just see that stark difference of, you know, where Dr. Sylvia Bollie is kind of mentally, and even where me as an internist like kind of needs to be. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And, you know, I think for me to grow, I had to do my own personal work to grow, to be able to do this work. And it definitely it's easier, right? it's more comfortable to just tell somebody, stop doing this, don't do that, without asking the why. Because when we ask why, honestly, sometimes you may not know the answer to their why right away, or you may not have the solution right away. And it takes deeper thinking, deeper probing to kind of get that. And for me, I'm a believer. So like, I'm like, okay, well, God is my secret power. So I get that I can connect really on a spiritual level, on an emotional level also, and really dig deeper and kind of get subtle clues that wouldn't be there. But I think that really is, as a clinician, is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and being able to sit in it and to then walk somebody out of it. And so that's part of why I realized, and I can't act like I woke up like this, you know, you've been with me on my journey, right? So it took time for me to get to the point where an experience for me to get to the point where I'm really comfortable saying, okay, what's the why? Let me think about that a little bit and come to it. But I've also now at this point seen like thousands of patients. So, and so, you know, 10 years, I'm getting gray hair. Like, I'm like, oh man, I'm not the youngest doctor on the block anymore. So, but with that comes lots of experience. And I think also being in the health outside of medicine, being in the health and wellness space, and just copiously reading and really trying to understand, like if something new comes out, I'm going to do all the reading, not just journals, but I'm going to read the pop media, everything, try to figure out, does this make sense? Is it biologically plausible? And I think that's the other thing too. When we were in med school, we really learned a lot of narrow definitions of what was right. Right. So it had to have a randomized controlled trial and a meta-analysis and a systemic lit review. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and that is good. Population-based science is wonderful as a starting point. But what happened, I think during that transition was that it actually started to overshadow the individual. So, you know, when you do a randomized controlled trial, there's a bell-shaped curve. And if you're just looking at numbers, you're looking at data, so you're saying, okay, the mean or the average is this amount of people, and that's what happens to this amount of people. But what about the people at this end of the bell-shaped curve? What about the people at the other one? So you can't say everyone needs to be like the middle, because even in this randomized controlled trial, there were people on the fringes. There were people coming up. So I now like look at it much bigger. So when I even read a study, I'm like, okay, that was what was statistically significant, but this happened to these people. I go deep into those charts and really think about what else is going on, because that's how we're going to help the individual.
And kind of speaking about, you know, helping the individual and kind of being uncomfortable, right? Like, let's talk about, so you have this program, right? And, you know, you're helping, but then you say, you know what, I also want to write a book. Again, obviously, Lunch Lunch Community, I have the book right here, right? Embrace You. Let's talk about this book and just the mindset that say, you know what, like, yes, I help group setting, but like, I need to put out something like this here, right? To help the masses, right? Someone like me who it may not be within your purview, but like be able to kind of read this and then take what, you know, the game that you're given and go into the next level. Let's talk about the book.
Yes. So, all right. So after God made me start this business while I was on the front line, it's like, okay, not enough. You need to do a book, because not everyone may be able to get it. And really, y'all, this book is my love letter to you. I say that, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, because I wanted everyone who gets this book to be able, by the end of it, to have a deeper understanding of what works best for you. Again, you know, being in the health and wellness space, I see, and on Instagram, I'm on Instagram and all this stuff. So I see lots of people like, do this detox, do this diet, do this, that. And what on the end of it is people bouncing around, confused, feeling disappointed, distracted, like defeated. And so I wanted, by the time you finish with this, being able to come up like, so each chapter walks you through a journey. The first one is just mindset, right? Releasing that perfectionism that I got to do everything right all the time, is all or none, and embracing progress, because progress is a journey. You don't have to be perfect. weight. Perfection is not required for progress. So that's the first thing. Free your mind.
Let's go. That's a gem. That is.
Yes.
Mm.
Perfection is not required for progress. Progress is perfection free. Okay, so you can do it without it. So starting with that mindset and then getting the truth. So what is your healthy weight? Going beyond what you learned about BMI. And understanding that it's deeper. What's your weight gain triggers? What actually beyond what we talked about, food and exercise, even beyond stress and sleep, what are those subtle things that are causing you to gain weight? So all of this we go through, and then each chapter just takes you on a journey. Every chapter has an empowerment tool, which is something that we also have in the Embrace You program. And a few of these are things that we actually use in the program. We have a lot more in the program, but so that you can do the work, do your own self-work and come up with something for you. I didn't want this to be about my journey. I wanted it to be a tool for your journey to help you embrace you.
I love it. Again, that's why I had I was gonna get the book regardless. However it came, I was gonna get the book. But I love the fact that when and you said it best, right? You know, again, we're all on social media, right? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and all these things there. And the amount of like, oh, just do this, just drink this, just do that, just drink, sleep this, all of these and the problem is because they speak as if it works for everybody else, right? You need a book like this, right? Because you need that individual, aspect of all right, what do I, Barry Pierre, what do I need to do to get to where I need to go? Right. And I think that's why I love this book, because it really helps recenter me and it helps block out the noise that I see. Right. So I don't have to look at this person who says oh, I eat whatever I want and I lose weight, or I don't eat anything. I just drink teas. And it helps block out that noise that unfortunately is out there. Right. And it's easily and readily consumable to us. Right. And really, again, puts us back in the mindset. So, again, I just love, not only are you helping, with just the book, right, but not only are you helping with just the one-on-one. And I don't know if you even realize the amount of people that you've touched, again, just kind of in your journey, right? Like I said, again, we talked again, we've been around for a couple of years now, right? But, again, starting from helping moms, right? Helping us get through the holidays, helping us get through the pandemic. You've been that's always your goal. And when you have that mission and your why is I want to help others, right? You'll always succeed. So again, that's why I love having you. I think you and my wife are probably neck and neck, right, as far as guests on the podcast, right?
Don't cause no problems.
Yeah, neck and neck. I was oh, I think she got you now, because but when you provide value to a community, right, and you want to make sure that flower, those seeds kind of spread. So again, Dr. Sylvia, again, like always, I absolutely love every time you hop on our show, because you just give so many amazing and empowering and gems that helps us take action, right? Not yesterday to take action, after you're done listening to this, watching this, take action today. And again, so let's give a breakdown. One, how can someone, if they want to get in touch with you, get into your program, how can they do that? How can they get this book? Where can they follow you? Let's get that whole. Now again, remember, you don't have to write any of this down. It will be in the description or show notes depending on where you're listening or watching this. But just in case, so we want you guys. We don't want you to take action tomorrow. We want you to take action today, right? Today is when you take action. You don't take waiting for tomorrow. There's always going to be another reason why you have to wait till tomorrow. Take action today. Change your life today, right? That. If that's what you want, right, you have to do that ASAP. Again, and don't wait for perfection, right? It ain't happening.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. Take action today. And what's the smallest thing? What's the easiest thing? That's one of the things I teach in Embrace You. It doesn't always have to be hard, y'all. The big picture, yeah, that's hard. But what is the simplest thing that we can do that will start that momentum, right? We were in the momentum. That'll start that momentum, that snowball to keep going. So for instance, on my social media, on my Instagram, which is Embrace You, MD, I always share on Wednesday a 1-minute movement motivation. I combine it with some motivating point and then show you 1 minute of movement you can do. Why? Because 1 minute of movement is better than 0 minutes of exercise. And the thing is, you probably will start out trying to do 1 minute and you're going to be like, oh, that's easy. I can do 5 minutes. And then next thing you know, you'll do 10 minutes. And really for me, this is how my journey started. When I started 7 years ago, I was not exercising at all. And now I call it movement, right? Because exercise is like, I don't feel like exercising. I have to exercise. But movement, you're like, I can move, I can do something. So I wasn't at all. And I started by doing 10, once I had my revelation of self-love and personalized science, I started doing 10-minute sessions, 1-minute sessions. And eventually I trained for my first 10K, then I became a runner, and now I've run over 4,000 miles. But that started with just doing 1 minute, 10 minutes here and there. So you don't know where you'll end up. So go to my Instagram page, Embrace You MD, and look at those minute movement motivations. I have put out a lot of content. Again, it's just there to serve you and to help you. Now, the next step is get in the book. If you don't already have the book, it's available on Kindle. It's available also on hard copy like we have here. So, and I actually started a virtual book club that's completely free. Once you go to embraceyoubook.com, you just can go on there and that'll sign you up for the weekly emails. And each chapter, I share a little bit deeper insight. I give you some self-work to do. You can join us in our Facebook group for some communication. So go to embraceyoubook.com and that'll show you can get the book and join the free virtual book club also. Now, if you're really, really committed, and I want people that are committed, that really want to change their lives. If you say, hey, that's me, Dr. Sylvia, I'm tired of playing scale games. I'm tired of obsessing over the scale. I want to know my why. And I want to make a lifelong change. As Drake says, this is a life biz, okay? Yes. We're about to change it for life. So yes, if you work with me, I'll quote a lot of scripture and a lot of music. I love music. So this is a life biz. So if you're ready to make this a life biz, then you can join the Embrace You program. I open up in 3-month enrollment periods. And guess what? Lucky for you, September, second week in September, I will be launching my second group. So how you can join, yes. So, and that will be the last group of the year. So how you can join that is we need to meet one-on-one first. So if you will just go ahead and head over to my website, you will see the link to, set up a complimentary call with me. And so just head over to embraceyouweightloss.com and you can set up a complimentary call and I'll ask you some questions to see if it's a good fit. If it is, you and I will meet one-on-one and really make sure that you're ready. I know I'm ready. I know I deliver. At this point, you know, I've been in the game over 10 years. I've been doing Embrace You exclusively for a year now, starting August of 14. And so I know I can deliver. So what I need is you to be committed. And if you're committed, I'll make sure you get that consistent, clear lifestyle change that's going to lead you to feel confident that you can stay at your happy, healthy weight for life. So I'm looking forward to meeting you.
Again, thank you, Dr. Sylvia, for continuing to really, I mean, at this point, you're just kind of setting the standard of just a level of excellence that, you know, not only do I love to see in physicians, but I just love to see people who like helping people, right? And anytime, you know, someone actually enjoys the process of, and that's really, we talked about this kind of offline, like the process, right, is something that I think we both kind of enjoy. Like we enjoy the process of getting someone from their point A to point Z, right? And we like the work, like just kind of comes with it, but like it's just that aspect of doing it is what really continues to drives us, what continues to has us waking up every Wednesday and doing those lives and doing all those things there, right, to kind of help a community, help touch other people, you know, that, you know, we wouldn't like naturally do before, right? Again, if we were just kind of focus on just a person who's just happens to be in my office, we probably couldn't do it, right? We wouldn't reach as many people. But the fact that you're able and you're willing, right? To put yourself out there in the limelight, right? And, be able to say, like, this is my why, this is my truth. And this is why I know, like, you heard what she said, like I know I'm good. Like, so it's not even a question of if can I do it, it's are you ready to do it, right? Like that says it all for me, right? Like I'm good, I can do what I do. Like, are you ready to help me help you, right? I absolutely love it. Again, thank you for joining. Again, just an amazing person, physician, helper, caretaker, all those things kind of wrapped into one. Like you're like I said, just love it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Berry. We go way back, and I'm so grateful for your support, for your mentorship. Let's call a spade, because you lead by example. You have been committed to excellence with this podcast and helping people by sharing the truth, and all for the past few years. And so thank you so much for providing this space. And thank you, Lunch and Learn community, for listening to me and for changing your lives. So whatever you do, guys, please, Lunch and Learn community, please embrace you. You are wonderful, you are unique, and you deserve to be the best version of you. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much, Dr. Berry.